All right, so we are going to be tier listing every single perk based on how good they'll be for Huntress specifically. So this is just a Huntress only video, Huntress specific video. If you guys want to check out a perk tier list that I did in the past, I've done that generally for all killers. This one's going to be specific to Huntress, so we're going to hop right into it. This is going to be a long one. So up first is Bitter Murmur. Now, this one, whenever a survivor pops a generator, all survivors within 16 meters of that generator will have their auras revealed for 5 seconds. This is okay. This is a decent runnable perk on her, but I'll put it at C tier, and that's for a very specific reason. Out of all of the aura reading perks, I think it is one of the worst, and that's for a key reason. When you're seeing auras, generally it's better to see the aura of the survivor before they pop the generator than after. It's not a bad pick by any means, so don't take it the wrong way. It's still usable, but I would much rather have a perk like Gearhead. Gearhead shows me when survivors are hitting skill checks. Anytime they hit a skill check, you see the aura of the survivor from Gearhead, of course, within 30 seconds of injuring another survivor. But that perk has stopped so many gens from popping. It's not even funny. All Bitter Murmur pretty much does is allow you to maybe try to hit a snipe, which is, nothing to scoff at if you can land one, see where they're rotating to, but I'd rather be able to stop a gen from popping in the first place. Up next is the reworked version of Deerstalker. Now, Deerstalker this is the one where every 30 seconds it shows your aura to the survivor with the least amount of chase. You might think this is solid. It also has a secondary side effect. It's like the object of obsession for killers. If a survivor sees your aura, then you see theirs. It's kind of a problem, though. If you're seeing each other's aura, they're going to see you getting ready to throw a hatchet at them, so you're never going to hit a hatchet on them, essentially. And then the fact that you're broadcasting your position to that survivor, it's not as detrimental as object of obsession, obviously, because you're the power rule. But again, you're not going to be getting pretty much any shots with it. And aura rating perks aren't very popular for survivors, so I'll put it at D tier. Up next is Distressing. I don't know why you would run this. This is just a bad perk. Increases your terror radius by 25%. It's just garbage. She has a 20-meter terror radius. This will knock it up to what? 24, 25, something like that. I'm terrible at math, but yeah. Noed, again, not bad by any means. Allows you to one-shot people with your M1. Increases your speed, so you'll be moving at 114 instead of 110 because it's a 4% speed increase. I guess I'll put it, I mean, I'll actually put it in D because I think it's actually almost detrimental because if you do hit a survivor with Noed, it could push them out, right? Like they're like, oh shit, she's got Noed, we can't find the totem, let's just leave. Whereas if you don't have Noed, you could potentially sit at the hook with your hatchets and make things happen. I've had a lot of scenarios where survivors like kick my ass brutally, and then it's the end game. I got one person on my hook, and then I end up killing the entire team because I just laser them all down with my hatchets. If you have Noed, that could scare them out of the game. It's not a bad perk by any means, but I think it could hinder you in that way. Hex Throw the Hunt, obviously on its own, not with other perks. It's not really going to do anything at all. However, if you're using it with a full Hex build, it'll be 40 seconds to cleanse a totem, which could potentially give you the ability to snipe people on totems. If you have an idea of survivors on a totem, this will give you much more time as that stands currently, but other than that, if you're not running a full Hex build, it's just kind of mediocre. So we'll definitely I'll go ahead and put it in the F tier. There's much better options anyways, honestly. Insidious, F. Worse than Distressing, I guess. Really, they go hand in hand. You have no terror radius when you're holding still. It's totally worthless. The perk needs a rework at the end of the day. Iron Grasp, I'd say F tier as well. There's really no reason to run Iron Grasp. This is just that these last three are just all for general killers. Distressing, I guess, can be good on Doctor and Wesker, but Insidious is trash on everybody except for like a Basement Bubba. Iron Grasp is trash on everybody. You'd rather have Agitation. All it does is it reduces the wiggle effects from the survivor. When a survivor wiggles, they'll move you back and forth 80%. It reduces that by 80%, I mean. And it allows you to carry 12% longer. So instead of 16 seconds, it's like 18 to 20 seconds. Essentially worthless. I mean, maybe it could help you better position hooks so that way as Huntress you could, threaten hooks more, but you're much better off running agitation. So I definitely say F tier. Up next is Monster Shrine. Monster Shrine doesn't really have any unique crazy synergy with Huntress. I mean, I guess it does force survivors to unhook faster. Monster Shrine, you have 70 seconds on the timer before you go to the second stage as a survivor. Well, Monster Shrine makes it 56 seconds. So now a survivor can only sit on hook for 112 seconds instead of 140. So, it can force people to get on hooks faster. You might be able to slip in some second stages here and there. Maybe it could allow you to contest hooks faster too because they're forced and pressured to get the unhook. And it really can make up for her lack of pressure because she's a very, very slow killer. It's not great by any means. It's not bad either, though. It is a very, very heavily slept on perk. Trust me, you should try it sometime. Even though you think you might not be getting value from it, you are getting value from it. Shattered Hope, I really don't even need to explain this one. You stomp out a boon totem, so it has to be booned in the first place. You see the ores of all survivors within the 24-meter radius of it for 8 seconds. Totally worthless perk. You'll never get value from it. Boons are dead ever since they got a Circle of Healing. It's garbage. Sloppy Butcher, yeah, I'll put it in F tier as well. It's definitely better than these. I'll put it there. Sloppy Butcher just makes your M1 attacks inflict the survivors with mangled and hemorrhage, which means they drop more pools of blood and their healing is 25% slower. You have an add-on for that if you really want a Sloppy Butcher effect. You have Begrimed Head for the Huntress, which gives the same effect upon using a hatchet and hitting a survivor with that. So yeah. Spies from the Shadows, this one isn't too bad. This is a kind of a good starter perk. It's a general perk. Anytime a survivor scares a crow, you get a noise notification. Not bad, not great though. It kind of gives you general information where the survivors are at, but at the end of the day, it's really not that great. There's a black bubble that pops up that hides the survivor, so you really can't see. It tells you where they're at, sure. Second story maps is kind of complicated because survivors can scare crows through floors, and it could trick you and make you think your survivors on the second story when they're actually on the first. But yeah, I mean, it's not bad. It's kind of like it was one of the very first perks put into the game. It's just like a generic basic tracking perks. Not bad, not great though. Unrelenting, awful. What I say? Yeah. It really doesn't matter. These are all awful. I almost feel like I shouldn't be putting Thrill of the Hunt here because these are just so bad. We'll go ahead and knock up Thrill one more because I mean, if you are using a hex build, it's not totally worthless, right? So, anyways, what is it? Unrelenting. Your missed attacks. The order of these really don't matter. Like all 5 of these are just fucking trash for Huntress. Your missed attacks for your basic attack is 33% faster. Missed attacks only. So if you M1 and you land the hit, not faster. If you M1, you hit the wall, not faster. One small change could make this into a literal S tier god perk. If they made this to where it applied to missed special attacks and put it on like a 15-second cooldown so that way you miss a hatchet and then you wind up 33% faster, dude, that would literally be a must run for so many killers. It would be one of the most meta perks in the game. And it's sad that it's just shit, honestly, now. Whispers, this one's very, very bad. A lot of people swear by it. No, it is, in my opinion, it's genuinely awful. So Whispers, you can, when a survivor is within 32 meters of you, you hear whispers. It sounds like a demon whispering in your ear, honestly, because it's the entity whispering in your ear. And that lets you know you're in the general area of a survivor. The problem is slugs activate it and survivors on hook activate it. So it's not really that great, honestly. Up next is Agitation. Now, Agitation is pretty solid. I'll put Agitation in A tier. Agitation is solid because it allows you to position your hooks better. It allows you to normally you want to hook survivors near the action or up on a hill or up on a hook that's in a more open line of sight so you can contest it at range. This allows you to get to hooks quicker, get to better hooks, and throw the survivors up there so you can contest them at range or contest them near objectives, which is really solid. Essentially what it does is it increases your speed while carrying a survivor by 12%. So you're 92%, or no, excuse me, 18%. You move at 92 when carrying a survivor. Agitation makes you move at 110 when carrying a survivor. It also increases your tear radius by 12 meters when you pick up. Not like that really matters. I guess it kind of goes in hand to hand with Starstruck, but you're not going to be using Starstruck on Huntress, so it's a pretty much worthless effect. It just lets survivors know you have the perk, honestly. Then we have Brutal Strength. I think I put Brutal Strength at B. The problem with Brutal Strength is it's just not like people's. I don't know how people defend this perk. I genuinely don't. 20% faster pallet break speed is literally nothing. So you go from 3 seconds to like 2.8. It's an entire perk slot dedicated to breaking pallets faster, and it allows you to break pallets like 0.2 seconds faster. It should be 40% bare minimum. We're talking about one entire perk slot dedicated to breaking pallets. You're not always going to be using it either. Sometimes you'll just go around pallets instead of kicking them. It's not worth it at all, in my opinion. People seem to swear by it, though. It's not totally useless. It's a decent utility perk. If you have to kick a pallet, it's not nothing. It's nothing to scoff at. Actually, we're going to drop it down to C tier. Yeah, I can't put it very high. Unnerving Presence. This one is, we'll put this in F tier as well. This is basically whenever a survivor's working on a generator or healing each other and your terror radius envelops them, they receive a skill check. Their skill check zone is 66% smaller, and they have a 10% increased chance of receiving the skill check. So Huntress has a 20-meter terror radius because her terror radius and Lullaby are treated as two separate different entities. So you have to get really close to get your value from it. Even if you're playing on a killer with a 100-meter terror radius, it's still trash. Survivors really never miss skill checks, and it could even help them out by giving them more skill checks, so yeah. And then we got Bloodhound. Bloodhound is one of the absolute worst perks in the game. Basically, pools of blood hang around 3 seconds longer than normal. I think right now it's 10 seconds, so they'll be hanging around for 13 seconds to allow you to track blood better, and they're brighter than normal. I'll put it right here. One of the worst perks in the game for sure. Up next is Predator. Predator, this one, when you lose a chase with the survivor, you see their auras for 6 seconds. It's not bad, it's not great. They made its cooldown super insanely long. I believe it's like 45 seconds now. And actually, it used to be 6 seconds. I think it's 4 seconds now. They nerfed it because Nurse was way too good with it. I'll go ahead and put it right here. It can be decent. You know, Huntress is a really slow killer, 110.77. There will actually be a lot of times where you're mid-chase with a survivor, and maybe you double back a little bit when you shouldn't have, or whatever happens, and they get a little too much distance on you. You can drop chase with Huntress mid-chase. That can happen with pretty much any 110 killer because they are so slow. Or, you know, you're chasing a survivor, you run out of hatchets, you go reload chase lingers for 12 seconds when you stop looking at them. So you're chasing them, you turn around, you look away, you go reload at the locker. Actually, I think it's 6 seconds. My bad. It's 6 seconds. And then 6 seconds later, chase drops, then you get the 4-second aura read or whatever it is. Now, the perk got changed so much. I really don't remember the specifics. Generally, it's in that area. It's not bad. It's not great. Bitter Murmur is definitely better, and so is Brutal Strength, honestly. Up next is Shadowborn from the Wraith. This one, you get 10% haste when you're blinded for 10 seconds, and then you see the survivor's aura for 10 seconds who blinded you. I have a kind of a big problem with this one because you're blinded. So you're already not seeing the aura for like 7 seconds, or 3 seconds, excuse me, because your blinds last for 3 seconds. And then you get 10% haste for 10 seconds. A lot of survivors will blind you and then crouch towards you and walk towards you because if they're not injured, obviously. And then you end up walking past them. Well, now you have 10% haste. You fly past them. And now they gain even more distance on you. So I don't like anything that gives you haste while you can't see what you're doing. Our first S tier perk for Huntress is Enduring. So Enduring is super simple. Pallet stuns are 50% faster. So it normally takes 3 seconds to recover from a pallet stun. Enduring makes it 1.5 seconds, which is incredibly fast. Why this is such a great perk on her is you do not want to respect pallets with this killer pretty much ever, because respecting pallets as a 110 killer is kind of a death sentence, especially for her more so than other killers. So when it comes to the Huntress, if you guys have played before, if not, you know, whatever, she makes wind up sounds. So when she picks out her hatchet, you can hear a click of her belt and she goes hut, and she picks the hatchet up. Super telegraphable. If the survivor has 2 brain cells, you will never win a 50-50 at all whatsoever, because all you have to do is listen, hut, and you're like, oh, I can get another 3 loops for free. And then you can hear her cancel because it clicks. She puts it back in her belt. Same thing. If the loop is very bad, you should never try to 50-50 at all. You should only really be trying to 50-50 if the loop is kind of a sketchy loop that you really don't mind getting stunned at or losing the 50-50 at, right? If you can still play around it when the pallets drop, then you can 50-50 if you want. Let me put it to you like this. This is going to be kind of complicated. I'm going to be hanging on this perk a lot. A 110 killer, let's say a 115 killer, you can get about 2 to 3 loops out of each loop, right? A 110 killer, you can get about 5 to 6 loops. So let's say you get to the loop against a Huntress, you get 5 loops, and let's say that takes 15 seconds. And you get to the pallet. So let's say you 50-50 at the pallet and you lose. Now they get another 5 to 6 loops out of that pallet, and that's 30 seconds spent at that loop now. And then you win the 50-50 the second time, and you get the hit. Yeah, you got the hit. You spent like 40 seconds at the pallet, right? But if you just take the stun, eat it instantly, they only get 15 seconds, and then you break it and you move on to the next one. And the main issue is, yes, you would have got a hit on the other one. Obviously, there's scenarios where you can get the hit and the pallet and the stun, different scenarios like that. But the main thing about enduring is some tiles for Huntress, like small rock tiles, are so unplayable for her that you don't want to try 50-50s at all. You don't want to respect the pallet at all. You want to just go right through it. And if the survivor is just like, I'm not even going to try to greed this shit, and they drop it on your head, well, now you recover faster. You get onto a much better, much more playable loop. The key to this perk is it minimizes the amount of time you're spent at bad loops by forcing the pallet out a little bit quicker. So, yeah. And a lot of survivors really expect a 50-50. And so they'll try to greet it, and then you'll just run right around and get the hit for free. And maybe they drop their pallet, maybe they don't. So S tier perk for sure on her. If I wasn't so addicted to aura reading perks, it would definitely be a permanent part of my kit. Up next, we have Lightborn. I'm not going to hate on this perk too much. I get why people love it. This literally just allows you to be casual. You don't want to stress out as killer too much. You don't want to worry about flashy save squads. I probably play 5 to 10 matches a day. I would say survivors get on average 2 to 3 flashlight saves on me a day, like one every couple matches. I'm usually pretty good at avoiding it, but you can't always avoid it. And I do fully understand the appeal of this. If you just want to chill, you don't want to worry about shit like that, you slap on Lightborn. But the problem is, if they find out you have Lightborn, what I like about not running Lightborn, I actually like it when survivors follow me for saves, because now I know I actually feel comfortable when a survivor is following me. When I'm chasing one survivor and nobody's around, nobody's following, nobody's trying to get saves, I kind of panic a little bit because I'm like, what are the other 3 doing? Are they hammering gens? What is going on? I'm like, dude, I'm going to finish this chase and 3 gens are going to pop. And if you have Lightborn, oh shit, she's got Lightborn. There's no reason to go for saves. Let's all hammer gens. So it's kind of good, it's kind of bad, and there's a lot of situations where survivors have blinded me and they knew they could blind me, so they're hanging around for saves a lot more, so they're not working as gens as much because maybe they want to hit clips for their YouTube or TikTok and stuff. I don't blame them for that, but that allows me to win, and then I can use my perks like Nowhere to Hide to find them waiting for the safe and get 2 downs and literally snowball entire matches for that. So, but I do fully understand the casual aspect for it. You just want to chill, have a relaxed game, and you don't want to have to worry about saves at all. So we'll just throw it right in the middle of the road at B tier. If you want to use it, use it. So now we have our first true, actually usable stealth perk. Insidious doesn't count. So basically, when a generator hits 70% progress, you get a loud noise notification on that generator, which is good. Don't get me wrong. That is a phenomenal thing. And then you get undetectable for 16 seconds. Undetectable on Huntress is not good at all. You have a 20-meter tear radius, which is very small and plenty fine on its own, and then a 45-meter lullaby. The lullaby doesn't go away even if you're stealthy. There's nothing you can do at all in this game to remove her lullaby. So the stealth is essentially worthless. On indoor maps, it's good. Don't get me wrong. Not having a tear radius on indoor maps is fine. But on an outdoor map, it's worthless because they can hear your lullaby and then they're looking around for you, right? But the best aspect for her would be the 70% notification where you get the loud noise. Even then, I've always thought this perk is pretty mediocre, pretty bad. I put it right around here at the end of the day. It's just back when it could trigger multiple times on generators. I would have put it a lot higher. Now it only happens once per gen. Up next is Nurse's Calling. Nurse's Calling just got buffed. Actually, it used to be 28 meters, which was decent because, again, Huntress has a 20-meter terror radius. 28 meters, it allowed you to be able to see auras without them hearing your terror radius. Now it's 32 meters. So whenever a survivor is healing within 32 meters of you, you see their aura for the entire time. And that obviously stacks with anti-heal perks. So let's say you're using Begrimed Head, the purple Huntress add-on, which makes a 16-second heal go to like 20 seconds, I believe. So now you could potentially see the survivor's aura for 20 straight seconds. And then let's say you're using Leverage, which slows it down by another 30%. Now you can see survivor's auras for 30 seconds while they're healing, like 30 to 40 seconds potentially. It's a really good perk. It's better than even I give it credit for, but I just don't use it that much. There's a lot of other aura reading perks I love a lot, but this is a phenomenal perk. This is a very heavily slept on perk. I almost never see anybody using it, but it's one of the best perks in the game for sure. I'll put it in A tier. So up next is Strider. Now Strider, I don't even know the exact numbers for this. I'm not going to even look it up, because it's a bad perk for Huntress. Basically, it makes your breathing louder when you're fully healed. It's like 25% louder, and it makes your grunts of pain 50% louder. This perk's literally sole purpose is to counter Iron Will, essentially, which you don't even see anymore because survivors, crutch on their exhaustion perks way too hard to ever even try to use Iron Will, honestly. It's literally just made for Spirit to use because she uses audio to track her targets. It's one of the worst perks in the game for sure. For Spirit, it's like a A to S tier potentially, but other than that, it's absolute garbage. Up next, we got Thanatophobia. This perk is really interesting, and really, it's not that good. It's really best on Legion and Plague. Other than that, on every other killer, it's pretty mediocre. So anytime you enter a survivor, they get 2% slower at gens, right? Or 3%. So it'll be 1 injured survivors 3%, 2 is 6%, 3 is 9%, 4 is 12%, but then you get an additional 8% on top of that. So if you can keep all 4 survivors injured, that's 20% slower on gens, which is huge. That makes a 90-second gen go to like 124 seconds, which is insane. It's great, honestly. But the problem is you're not going to be keeping all 4 survivors injured. You're probably going to have 1 to 2 injured at max per game. I mean, there has definitely been a lot of times where I've had all 4 survivors injured, but they'll see Thanatophobia in the bottom right-hand corner of their screen because it tells them, and then they'll always make sure one of them is healed. And with how powerful healing is these days, you don't even want to try to run this perk, honestly. All right, up next we have Dying Light. This is an incredibly heavily slept on perk. I think Oddstarve is finally coming around to it too. He didn't like it because it does buff up your obsession. So it makes your obsession 33% faster at healing teammates, and they're not affected by the gen repair speed penalty. The problem is healing is so fast these days, I really don't think that negative effect really matters. Instead, the primary driving factor of the perk is every time you get a hook, survivors are 3% slower on gens, obviously not applying to the obsession. And this is kind of more of a win more perk. If you're not doing good, it's going to be brutal. And you're not getting hooks, you're not getting any slowdown. Each time you hook a survivor that's not the obsession, it's a 3% repair speed penalty to all the non-obsession survivors. It is permanent. You cannot undo it. And it is phenomenal. So 1 stack, 3%, 2 stacks, 6% immediately cancels out Deja Vu. 3 stacks, 9% immediately cancels out Resilience. And then you got 12%, 15%, 18%. By that time, you're already winning the game, 6 hooks. 18% is insane. That is super slow. And then you combine that with other gen regression perks. It is a very, very good perk that is heavily slept on. Huntress is pretty good at getting hooks quick, and her main issue, I believe, is not being able to keep up with gen speeds and not being able to cover the map as much as possible. So, it's a really solid perk, I would say for sure. I'd throw it in A tier for sure. Again, though, if you're having a rough match, it's not going to do too much for you. Up next, Play With Your Food. We'll go ahead and throw that F tier. I guess it doesn't really matter. Essentially, play with your food. You chase your obsession. You lose chase. You gain 5% token. Play with your food token. 5% haste, up to 3 tokens. So you can be moving instead of 110, you'd be moving at what, 125? It's just garbage at the end of the day. Every time you throw a hatchet, you lose a token. Every time you M1, you lose a token. It's not good at all. You could combine it with Eerie Head, and that might be fun. Eerie Head allows you to insta down survivors. So you can, throw on play with your food, throw on Eerie Head, be moving at 125 with a one-shot hatchet. Survivors are going to absolutely hate it. They won't love it at all, and they'll just DC immediately, but it might be fun. Save the best for last. We'll go ahead and throw that in F tier as well. Save the best for last. It's tied to your basic attacks. You really don't want to be basic attacking that much at the end of the day. You hit your obsession with the hatchet, you lose tokens. It's 8 tokens, 45% faster cooldown total. So instead of a 2.7 weapon wipe animation, it's like probably 2.1 or maybe like 1.9, something like that. I don't know the specifics. I don't play M1 killers, but yeah. Ooh. Do I want to put... Man, do I want to put... No. No, it's a hex perk, so I can't put it very high. But it's definitely one of the best hex perks in the game. Brutal Strength is more... Well, okay. So, Devour Hope is one of the absolute best hex perks in the game. It has won me matches entirely. The problem is, if you're just running this perk, that could get wiped out in the first 10 seconds, and then you don't have a perk the rest of the game in that slot. You only have 3 perks. But man, is it such a good perk. So basically, you hook a survivor, nothing happens. You hook the second survivor, now you get 10% haste for 10 seconds when you move 10 seconds after. I know it's a lot of 10s. 10% haste for 10 seconds, 10 seconds after hooking the survivor, right? So it can help you get to the next chase quicker, pretty solid. You get to 3 tokens, you still get that haste. Now you can insta down with your M1 attack. Can be also pretty nice. And then 4 tokens does nothing. You still have your insta down, you still have your haste, but nothing special happens. 5 tokens allows you to instantly Amoria a survivor no matter their hook state. Absolutely phenomenal effect. I have played matches where I've been using Devour Hope and I've been getting cooked, and then a survivor who I've never hooked before makes a mistake and I down them with my insta down and instantly Morium on the spot. Game's over. I win immediately. I turn everything around in my favor. It is a phenomenal perk to use. Very fun to use. Too bad you can't hide the M1, the exposed effect, because survivors don't know they're exposed until you attack. Even if you use a special attack, it reveals itself. So you can't hide it with your hatchets, unfortunately. But yeah, still a very fun, very phenomenal perk. But it's a Hex perk, so I gotta put it low because it could just get obliterated instantly. Then we got Hex Ruin. Hex Ruin actually did just get buffed. Again, it's a Hex perk. I really struggle to put Hex perks very high. So we'll just put it right next to Devour Hope. I think Devour Hope is better though, honestly. Ruin, basically it's 150% now. Anytime a survivor lets go of a generator, it starts regressing at 150% the normal speed. So it regresses a lot faster, which can be solid. The thing is, Ruin really works best on mobile killers. A killer who can run to multiple gens very quickly and push off multiple survivors very quickly. Huntress can do it to a degree by throwing hatchets at generators and scaring survivors off at long ranges, but it's just, in my opinion, it's not that great. It's good, it's usable, it's very RNG laden, and you kind of have to use it with Undying to try to gain more value out of it. Up next is Hex the Third Seal. Again, Third Seal, Hex perk. I'll put it down here with Thrill of the Hunt. It's not a bad perk by any means. Anytime you injure a survivor, they're blind, meaning they can't see any auras. They can't see their survivors on hooks. They can't see survivors in the dying state, things like that. All their aura reading perks don't work, so it's nothing to sneeze at, for sure. It can be decent. It's easy to get the perk up and running because you can snipe survivors with hatchets, then they're immediately blind. Yeah, it's not that great. It's not awful. I definitely think it's underrated. Up next is the nerfed Monitor and Abuse. This perk was very good for her. Now it's kind of like mediocre. I'll put it right here. So basically, it used to be when you're in a chase, your terror radius increases by 8 meters. When you're outside of a chase, it decreases it by 8 meters. Now it's 25%. So now we're talking 6 meters. in and out of chase. So instead of having a 20-meter tear radius, you'd have 14 instead of 12 is what it used to be, which was really solid. This is not that good. Even in the past, it wasn't that great. 12-meter tear radius. It's not bad by any means, but I don't know. They for some reason they changed it and made it stronger on the already overpowered killers and weaker on the stealth killers, which are the ones who really needed it. Up next is Overcharge. Overcharge is just kind of a decent middle of the road gen regression perk. Basically, you kick a generator, it traps the generator. It regresses at 85% of the normal speed, so it starts regressing slower than it would with a regular kick, but it ramps up to 125% over the course of 30 seconds. And then the generator is trapped, a survivor gets on the generator, they receive a difficult skill check. And if they miss that skill check, it's an additional 4% penalty on that missed skill check. So missing a skill check's 10%. The additional 4% penalty is makes it 14%. It's okay. It's it's not great. Generally, you don't want to be kicking gens too much as Huntress. I really feel like you can't afford the downtime unless that kick comes with huge benefits. Up next is Overwhelming Presence. This one's tied to tear radius again, so it's not very good. She's got a very small tear radius, like I said, 20 meters. Anytime a survivor uses an item within your tear radius, they become exhausted for 15 seconds, which is really good, and then you see their aura for 6 seconds. So, it's pretty solid in most cases on most killers, but since she has such a tiny tear radius, the only time you're really going to be getting value out of it is if a survivor's trying to blind you at a pallet. That's pretty much it. Yeah. Other than that, you're really not going to be getting too much value from it passively in any type of way. What is this? Territorial Imperative. This is the basement one. I always get Territorial Imperative. No. This is Beast of Prey. This is Territorial Imperative. Okay. So Beast of Prey, and that's crazy because I'm a Huntress main, but they're both wolves, so it's hard for my brain to be like, this wolf equals that. So this is Beast of Prey. Anytime you get Bloodlust tier 1, you're undetectable for 40 seconds. Not great. Huntress does get Bloodlust a decent amount. If you're throwing hatchets like crazy, you're not going to be getting Bloodlust, but some loops she kind of just has to Bloodlust out because you can't use your hatchets at the loop. 40 seconds of undetectable. Again, she's a killer who really can't use stealth perks that well, so I'll put them down here. Yeah, right there. Up next, again, Hex Huntress's Lullaby. We'll put it right there, honestly. Yeah, we'll put it below Thrill of the Hunt. So anytime a survivor misses a skill check, it's an additional 6% penalty. So instead of 10%, it's 16%. And then each time you gain a token, the skill check cursor speeds up. The time between the skill check sound, because there's a little audio cue that plays, and the skill check actually appearing, because it happens about a second before, you hear a bung, and then a second later the skill check comes up and you have to hit it. So it decreases by 15% for each token. So 1, 2, 3 tokens kind of mid. 4 tokens gets really hard because it's like bung, doop, bung, doop. It's really hard to hit those. And then 5 tokens, no warning at all whatsoever, which it's actually kind of devastating at the end of the day. Survivors really still don't miss those. You run into it every once in a while, and I don't miss them at all, really. But it's still solid, It's a hex perk, though, RNG related. It's just not great. And it starts lit with the 0 tokens. So the best part of it is the 16% penalty for missing the skill check, and you really need to be playing a killer that can really get survivors to miss a lot of skill checks, which she just can't. Okay, and now, of course, Territorial Imperative. Anytime a survivor goes in a basement when you're 24 meters or more away, you see their aura for 6 seconds. We'll put it at the very bottom of D. Getting a hook in basement as Huntress is huge. It can literally win you the entire game if you play it right. But it's just not worth it, in my opinion. You will pretty much always have one survivor go in basement for the chest. It's pretty much a given. But other than that, you're really not going to have many survivors in there. You could stand 24 meters away and wait to see a survivor enter basement, and then you could try to down all of them on the way out with like Oakheft. I mean, that's a possibility. Maybe I'll have to do a video on that. That actually sounds interesting now that I think about it. Oh, and then you could combine it with Monstrous Shrine. Ooh. I think I'm gonna do that. Yeah. Again, though, at the end of the day, it's just mediocre. Okay. Our second S tier perk ever, barbecue and chili. Don't even need to think about that one. Anytime you hook a survivor, any survivor who's 40 meters away or further has their aura revealed for 5 seconds. Just a phenomenal perk. Allows you to try for so many snipes, learn where the survivors like are at on the map, what gens they're working on, see them working on gens. Gives you so much information. It is such a good perk. It's such a good perk on every killer. It's one of the best perks in the game for Huntress for sure. It has the highest pick rate on Huntress, I believe. That or Lethal Pursuer. One of those are her highest used perk ever. Franklin's Demise. We'll go ahead and throw this down here into F tier. Up next, we got Franklin's Demise. This one's going straight to F tier. It already went from, it was a good perk on most killers, and then they nerfed it, and it like went to hard D. But now you're talking about, well, pause, hard D. Now you're talking about on a 110 killer who already wasn't getting much value from the perk to begin with when it was good and actually drained items. Now it doesn't drain items at all. That's worthless. Up next, we got Knockout. Anytime a survivor drops a pallet, this is complicated, so listen to this. They drop a pallet. If they move 6 meters away from the pallet, within 6 seconds, they're hindered by 5% for 5 seconds. Super complex, super complicated, way too much. If you break the pallet, it doesn't count. It's meant to stop pre-droppers, I suppose. 5% for 5 seconds, entirely irrelevant. I would literally rather have almost any other perk in the game. It's almost entirely irrelevant. Up next, we got Blood Warden. This one's pretty simple. When the exit gates are opened, meaning the timer, the in-game class timer is counting down and everything. If you hook a survivor, then the gates will be blocked for 60 seconds. This is kind of a fun perk. It can be a really strong perk. It's more along the lines of a meme perk. Survivors are really skittish, though. Survivors almost always 99 gates because this perk exists. If the gate's 99, you hooking is going to do nothing. So if you have the survivor hooked and then they open the gate, now you don't get value from it unless they try to come for the save. Then you could potentially get value from it. But if you down that survivor, the survivors might get skittish and worried about Blood Warden and they might just leave. It's kind of a back and forth, a give and take. It's a very fun perk to use. It's definitely usable on her for sure. So I'm not hating on it in that regard at all. It's definitely better than a lot of these perks in my opinion. The value is just so like, it's so like hit or miss. You know, you really have to be really strategizing, really thinking about how to do it properly and what you can do, how you can manage that. Oh, it also has the secondary effect of showing the auras of survivors within the exit gate zone. So, you know, that's cool, right? Then we got Fire Up. Fire Up, basically every time a generator is completed, you get a token. I believe it's 5% faster. It just got changed recently, like a month or two ago. Or no, probably like 6 months ago at this point. Needless to say, it's like 5-6% every time you get faster. So 6% faster kicking pallets, 6% faster vaulting, 6% faster picking up, things like that. So at a maximum, I think when all 5 gens are done, it's at like 30%. It's pretty much worthless on Huntress, honestly. You really don't want to be losing gens. Up next is Remember Me, and they actually just changed this one like 6 months ago, I believe. So anytime you enter the obsession, you get a token up to a maximum of 5, and it increases the amount of time it takes to open a gate by 6 seconds. So it takes 16 seconds with 5 tokens. That's an additional 30 seconds. So I believe it's like, what, 46 seconds to open the gate. Really solid, really good perk. Deadly when combined with No Way Out for a pretty nasty in-game build. The Obsession is completely immune to its effects, though, so you really want to tunnel out the Obsession after you get those 5 tokens for sure. It's a perk that definitely encourages tunneling for sure. It's solid, you know. It's I'm not going to say it's great. I'm not going to say it's terrible by any means. It's okay. Up next is Make Your Choice. This is an exposed perk. Anytime you hook a survivor and you're 32 meters away or further and the survivor gets unhooked, the survivor that unhooks them is screams and is exposed for 60 seconds. Exposed only works with M1s. You're not going to be M1ing. You're 110. You're not going to be getting back in time to get that insta down. It's worthless on her. Scourge Hook, Hangman's Trick. Again, another worthless perk. I'll put it right here. Whenever you pick up a survivor, any survivor within 12 meters of a Scourge Hook have their aura revealed for the entire duration you're carrying the survivor, honestly. and then that's it. It's just garbage. 4 scorch hooks on the map. 12 meters is now nowhere near big enough. Up next, we have Surveillance from the Pig. This one's actually really good and really slept on. Kind of interesting, but it's only really that good if you're using Oppression or Ruin. So anytime a generator regresses, it's white. So generators will be red. When they start regressing, they'll turn white. And then when a survivor starts working on the generator, it'll turn yellow. So it's really solid. Doesn't have any other limitations in that way. So with Ruin, you'll get a huge amount of value because you can see all the gens regressing as soon as they let go. And then when they start working on them, they all turn yellow, things like that. Same with Oppression, because Oppression hits 4 gens at once and starts all 4 of them regressing. If you're just using it by itself, though, it's not that good. In tandem with Ruin and Oppression, it can be solid, but it's just not that great on its own. So up next we have Bamboozle. Now a lot of Huntress mains really don't stand by Bamboozle, but it's not a bad perk at all. So the problem is a lot of Huntress mains don't want you to use it because you can guaranteed hatchet hits on windows because it locks them into an animation. But there are some loops that Huntress really struggles with, like double L walls, and it's nice to be able to just shut one window down completely and just play that one window. Or you go to Shack, you immediately bam Shack window, and then now they have to give up Shack pallet the next time around, you know? So instead of being able to get potentially 45 to 60 seconds out of Shack, they're getting like 15 seconds. So it's a pretty solid perk in my opinion. I would definitely put it in B tier. All right, up next is Colorophobia. Again, this is another Terra Radius based perk, so we're going to throw it all the way down here. Colorophobia, basically any survivors that are healing inside of your Terra Radius have their healing speeds reduced by 50% and the skill check cursor speed. It normally goes like at a normal fixed speed, but with this, it's like 50% faster. So it'll be like bam, bam, bam. And dude, healing with this thing is a nightmare in my opinion. It takes so long. It's so hard to hit the skill checks, increases the amount of skill checks you get, things like that. But again, a 20-meter Terra radius, you're not going to be getting a lot of value out of it. We're actually going to put it, yeah, we'll put it right here. That was a good spot. Pop goes the Weasel. Anytime you hook a survivor, this is active for 45 seconds. The next gen you kick has 20% of its total current progress taken off. So if a generator's at 99% and you kick it, now it'll take 20% off, plus the additional 5% that's base kit with a kick. If there's 10% progress on the gen, now instead of 5%, it'll take off 7, because, you know, 2% is 20% of 10. Absolutely awful. Completely gutted. Huntress is a slow ass killer. Not gonna get a whole lot of value out of it. I'd say it's a lot better than. Yeah, I'd put it right here. Honestly, I think it value. No. Shit. Where do I want to put this damn thing at? Actually, yeah, we'll put it right there. Up next is Hex Haunted Grounds. M1 exposed, basic attack perk. Whenever a survivor cleanses this totem, all survivors are exposed for 60 seconds. Absolute garbanzo beans. You do not want to be M1ing on a 110 killer. It takes forever. A survivor can run in a straight line for 35 minutes straight, and then you'll finally catch up to him. And it's a hex perk. We'll go ahead and put it down here. Up next is Rancor. Rancor is anytime a generator is completed, all the survivors scream and reveal their locations. And it's not an aura reveal, it's like a loud noise bubble. And then when the exit gates are powered, when the last generator is completed, the obsession becomes exposed and you can instantly kill them. Again, obviously exposed means nothing on your hatchets, so you still got to hit them twice. It allows you to kill the obsession. Big whoop. Information's mediocre at best. They all scream. I guess that's something. Maybe you could combine it with like Dead Man Switch. I don't know. Something like that. We'll put it down. It's such a bad perk. Yeah, I'll put it right here. I think I even like Whispers better, honestly. Up next is Spirit Fury. Anytime you break a pallet, you gain a token. It's not really a token. It's a it's like this red line that'll be like, okay, the perk's halfway lit up. 2 pallets kicked, the perk's fully lit up. Then the next time you get stunned, the pallet instantly breaks. You could combine it with Enduring Spirit Fury for a, build that really allows you to disrespect pallets. On its own, it's not that great. It's not a perk I really use because as soon as survivors find out you have it, they're just going to pre-drop every single pallet on the planet. So yeah. Up next is Discordance. This is a really solid perk. This is our first A tier perk. So anytime 2 survivors are working on a generator, the generator turns yellow. Obviously, if you're not in a chase, or maybe you are even in a chase and you see a gen turn yellow, you obviously want to be disrupting as many survivors as possible. So if you're chasing 1 survivor and they're not injured, and you don't have much invested in the chase, or they're just a very good looper, you can drop the chase, go to the gin that's yellow now, and scare 2 survivors off at the same time, potentially finding a weaker link. Really, really solid perk. Up next is Iron Maiden. This one allows you to open lockers 50% faster, which has the secondary benefit of making you reload 50% faster. So instead of a 3-second reload, it's 1.5 seconds. Very fast reload. It also has the other effect of anytime a survivor gets out of a locker, they scream and they're exposed for 30 seconds. You won't be really getting much value from the exposed, but you know, it's decent for its quality of life aspect. I'll throw it right here just for the QOL. It was pretty much a must run for a while when her reload speeds were 4 seconds, but they buffed them at a certain point. Up next, we have Mad Grit. This one, it's kind of just a meme perk. Anytime you're carrying a survivor, you can carry them for 16 seconds, right? Well, if you hit a survivor while carrying a survivor, it pauses that timer. So you're carrying the survivor, let's say 4 seconds go by. You hit a survivor, now the timer pauses for 4 seconds. You hit another survivor, it pauses for 4 seconds. So potentially you could have a survivor on your shoulder for like 30 seconds. If they're like trying to body block, and you can just keep down and keep down and keep down and keep downing survivors. So yeah, it's kind of a meme perk. It's pretty mediocre at the end of the day. I don't know. I guess I'd put it right here for its anti body blocking effect. Better than Colorophobia, I think, in my opinion, because she has a small tear radius. Up next is Corrupt Intervention. This is an S tier perk for sure. I'll put it above Enduring. So this is just your basic passive slowdown, which is really solid. 3 generators start blocked for 120 seconds, and it's permanent unless you down a survivor. So this has a couple effects. Survivors can't crush gens right away. They have to come towards you, towards the middle of the map, to meet on a more even playing field and kind of disrupt the amount of time they get on gens in the early game. Early game is where survivors are strongest. This really disrupts that a lot. So it is a really solid passive slowdown perk. Even if you get it down in like the first 20 seconds, it still did a lot for you in that match. Up next is Dark Devotion. Anytime you hit the obsession, your terror radius transfers to them, and it's set to 32 meters, and it lasts for 45 seconds. Really solid perk. Undetectable again, not really worth it, but it does have the knock-on effect of having a 32-meter terror radius following that survivor around, which can really throw people off and disrupt them. That's probably a perk that should be used more, to be honest, but it's not. It's just not that great either, in my opinion. So I'll throw it right here. Up next is Infectious Fright, and this is another terror radius based one, so you already know how I'm going to feel about this perk. Anytime you down a survivor, any survivor within your terror radius, when you down that survivor, scream. So it's like a slug tunnel type perk. It's really allowed to help you find people nearby who might be hovering for saves, which there's much better perks for that in my opinion. You know, she's got a very small terror radius, 20 meters, so I'd put it right down around here for her. So up next is Furtive Chase. This one's actually not too bad, but it's not that great either. So whenever you hook the obsession, you gain 10% haste and undetectable for 18 seconds. So 18 seconds is it's good. It's better on a lot of other killers. It's weakest on Huntress because she's so slow. Undetectable is essentially worthless. Mainly the main benefit is the 10% haste. The unfortunate effect is it's tied to the obsession only. I think it could easily apply to every single survivor and it would not be overpowered at all. I would personally throw it right around here in this general area. It's cool. It's niche. It's got its use cases. Anytime a survivor unhooks the obsession, they become the new obsession, so it encourages you to spread pressure. Sometimes you can't always do that. So up next is I'm All Ears. Anytime a survivor fast vaults within 48 meters of your location, their aura is revealed for 6 seconds and it goes on a 30-second cooldown. It's a pretty solid perk, don't get me wrong. Survivors are always going to be fast vaulting near you. A problem is you could be chasing a survivor and right when they're about to fast vault, another survivor fast vaults, 48 meters in the opposite direction and steals your aura reading. Then it's got a 30-second cooldown. There's much better aura reading perks in my opinion. It's not bad though. It can really help you win a chase for sure and get some nasty mind games at windows. So we'll throw it up here. Yeah, we'll throw it right here. Up next is Thrilling Tremors. This one's pretty solid. Whenever you down a survivor and pick them up, all gens that aren't currently being worked on are blocked for 16 seconds. So that's how long you can carry a survivor. And then when you're carrying the survivor, you can look out, okay, I see 2 gens aren't blocked, because it will literally block all 7 gens if no gens are being worked on. You can see, oh, 2 gens aren't being blocked. That means I know for a fact that survivors are working on those generators. And it's oh yeah, it goes on cooldown for 30 seconds. It used to be 60, which was insane, but now there's pretty much no scenario where you're not going to be getting it to trigger. So we'll go ahead and put it at, where do I want to put this at? Well, I guess we'll put it right here. No. I like it more than hex perks. I really do love hex perks, but they're just way too RNG laden. Up next is Claustrophobia, Cruel Limits, depending on if you own Demogorgon or not. Oh, wait. No, they got the licensing back for them, so it will be Cruel Limits, I think. I really don't remember which one is demos and which one's not, so forgive me for that. But basically, whenever a generator is completed, every single vault on the map is blocked for 60 seconds. Not bad at all. Not bad. Still not great though, because some maps have like 3 vaults, in which case it does nothing. And then some maps like Auto Haven have 129 vaults, in which case it does a lot more. But 60 seconds, damn, I think they could up it to 90 and that would be dope. And of course, survivors still have pallets, so that's something always to keep in mind. As for its utility, there's just much better perks at the end of the day. I like it better than Spies from the Shadows for sure. Up next is Fearmonger / Mindbreaker. Again, I don't know which one's demos. They're the same exact perk. I just don't remember the names that belong to his perks because I'm so used to the unlicensed ones. Whenever a survivor's working on a generator, they're exhausted for 5 seconds and they're blind for 5 seconds. So they let off the generator. 5 seconds later, they aren't blind anymore and they aren't exhausted anymore. Really solid to use against sprint bursters, because if somebody sprint bursts and then gets on a gen, now they're going to be having their 40 seconds exhaustion timer like pretty much permanent, which is kind of insane. Against every other exhaustion perk, it's mediocre at best. 5 seconds, it's 5 seconds is literally nothing to get it back. And then Vigil is 66% faster, which survivors use constantly. So now you're looking at like 2 seconds before they get unexhausted. So yeah, it's got decent utility against sprint bursters. I'll put it right there. Up next is Surge. This is a basic attack perk. Anytime you down a survivor, it pops all generators within 32 meters for 8%. Basic attack perk, so we are going to put it right next to Sloppy Butcher down here. Essentially worthless. Up next is Blood Echo. So essentially, anytime you hook a survivor, every other injured survivor will be exhausted and hemorrhage for 30 seconds. So you can pretty much just forget about hemorrhage. It's totally worthless. They just drop more pools of blood. Has pretty much no gameplay effect. But 30 seconds of exhaustion, nothing to scoff at. That's really solid as long as you can get into your next chase quick. But with Huntress, that's not going to be happening. You're not going to be getting into your next chase quick at all. So by the time you get to them, they'll probably have most of it back, if not all of it back. Survivors use Vigil so much nowadays. Exhaustion is pretty much irrelevant unless it's like a 90-second exhaustion, which just doesn't exist these days. It's very mediocre on her. You can have multiple survivors injured for sure, but other than that, you're not going to be getting too much value from it. Then up next, we got Nemesis. Nemesis is kind of interesting. Basically, whenever an obsession switch happens, you see that survivor's aura. And then also, whenever a survivor stuns you, they become the new obsession. So essentially, a survivor stuns you, they become the obsession, you see their aura for 6 seconds. You're using Furtive Chase, and they unhook that survivor, you see the unhooker's aura for 6 seconds because they become the obsession, essentially. It's literally just an obsession switching perk. It's pretty bad, in my opinion. Yeah, I'd put it all the way down here. Then we got Zanshin Tactics. Zanshin Tactics allows you to see all pallets and windows within 32 meters of your current position. That'll be highlighted to you in yellow. And then anytime a survivor drops a pallet, you see their aura for 8 seconds. This is really solid because it allows you to know where the pallet's at. It allows you to know where the window's at, so you can know you don't have to do any guesswork at the tile. You can be like, oh shit, there's a window right there. You don't know, like, is there a window there? Is there not? This takes all that out. You just immediately blind fire the hatchet around the corner, allowing you to get some hits. And then when they drop the pallet, it allows you to fake, oh, I'm going this way. Oh, come back around and get the hit. It is a solid perk. I'm not going to lie. But it's not amazing, I would say. I'd put it right here. It's solid. It's solid. Up next is Dead Man Switch. Up next, we got Dead Man Switch, and it's kind of unfortunate because Dead Man Switch did get nerfed. It was 50 seconds with its token system that it also got changed to, and now it's down to 35 seconds. So essentially, whenever you hook a survivor, the perk lights up. You have a token. It's literally saved until a survivor lets go of a gen. The next survivor that lets go of a gen, that gen will be blocked for 35 seconds. So it's pretty solid. It's a pretty good pick on her. Definitely better than Overcharge and a lot of things like that. I would put it in an A tier slot because you could literally, let's say you have barbecue and chili, you hook a survivor, you see a survivor working on a generator, you throw your hatchet at that survivor and it scares them enough to let go of the generator. And then all of a sudden that gen's blocked for 35 seconds. So still a really, really solid perk. Up next is Gearhead, and this is another immediate S tier perk. So essentially, you enter a survivor, then a 30-second timer starts. You know, there's no timer on the screen, it's just the perk slowly counting down. You can see it. And any survivor who hits a skill check in that 30-second window has their aura revealed for 8 seconds. So this can tell you a whole bunch of things. First of all, it'll show you survivors working on gens, and you can gain things by how long you're seeing their aura. If you see a survivor's aura for like 24 seconds straight, well, they probably have hyper focus or a toolbox because you're seeing their aura for like 20 seconds straight, because 8 seconds, and then they hit another skill check, another 8 seconds, another skill check, another 8 seconds, and so on, right? Obviously, if they have 6 seconds go by and they hit a skill check, it'll just be another 8 seconds. It's not additive in that way. So you will be losing a little bit of aura reading, but it really doesn't matter at that point. The information's too worth it. You can see who's working on generators and pumping gens, and you can go to that gen immediately and interrupt them if you can. So very solid, very goated perk, and 8 seconds is an incredibly long time. Combine that with Lethal Pursuer too, if you're using that perk, and that's 10 seconds. That is a very long time as well. Up next is Hex Retribution. This is definitely one of the worst Hex perks for sure. I'll put it right here. So Hex Retribution, whenever they're working on a totem, afflicted with Oblivious for 45 seconds, so they won't hear your terror radius. The main benefit to Retribution is whenever they destroy a Hex perk, you see survivors' auras for 20 seconds, or excuse me, 18 seconds. So 18 seconds of aura reading is nothing to scoff at. I mean, that's good, but if you're just using Hex Retribution, that's 18 seconds and that's it. It's over. It's kind of mediocre. Might help you with one chase, 2 max, maybe for a snipe, something like that. Other than that, it's kind of mediocre. 4 Hex perks, now we're talking more, right? We're talking better. Up next is Deathbound. This one's pretty mediocre. So when a survivor heals another survivor fully, then they scream, they reveal their location. Again, it's the black bubble, not the actual aura reveal. And then anytime they're further than 4 meters away from that survivor, they're oblivious. So, you know, if they go work on separate gens on the opposite side of the map, they could be potentially oblivious for like 3 straight minutes, you know, until you down them and hook them, in which case it goes away. Again, oblivious has to do with terror radiuses. They can't hear your terror radius. You have a small terror radius anyways. Essentially irrelevant. I would put it in F tier as well. And I'll put it below Retribution, above Colorophobia. Up next, we have Forced Penance. This one's actually really solid. Anytime a survivor takes a protection hit for another, they're broken for 80 seconds. But it has another caveat to it. If a survivor is broken for 80 seconds, that means they're not going to be working on gens because they can't heal. It's a good anti-heal for the healing meta we have right now, where there's god level perks, because broken cannot be healed at all. It's not just slowdown, it's literally cannot heal. But then that means they're going to work on generators. So it's kind of a toss-up. Would you rather have a survivor spend 4 seconds healing, and that's not them being on gens for 4 seconds, or would you rather have them broken for 80 seconds to potentially find them and insta-down them again? It's a solid perk. It's not bad at all, especially if you're contesting unhooks and a survivor's unhooking and you injure the unhooker. That literally, as soon as they get unhooked and you injure them, that counts as a protection hit and they're broken. But, you know, you're going to be hooking them essentially immediately anyway. So it's good. It's not great. I'd put it right. I put it right here. Yeah. Up next is Trail of Torment, undetectable for as long as the generator is regressing. The generator's yellow. So you kick a generator, it turns yellow. As long as the generator's regressing, you are undetectable. So if a generator takes about 6 minutes to regress from 99% to 0, so you could potentially kick a gen at 99% and be undetectable for 6 minutes straight. Obviously, that's really not going to happen. Survivors see it's yellow. They know you have undetectable. They're going to be expecting you to not have a terror radius. Undetectable, again, is worthless on Huntress unless you're in an indoor map. I would put it down here. Up next, Dragon's Grip. You kick a generator. The generator's trapped. The survivor who touches it next screams, and they're exposed for 30 seconds. Worthless. It's an exposed perk on Huntress. Again, garbage. Blood Favor. This one's actually really goated. Anytime you injure a survivor, all pallets within 32 meters are blocked for 16 seconds. So this is super solid. You can catch up to a survivor at a trash loop. You get the hit right before they get to the pallet, then it blocks the pallet and they can't pull it down. Literally an instantly guaranteed follow-up. Probably the absolute best perk for Huntress. But we will keep it low still because it can be obliterated off of the face of the planet in 5 seconds flat. It's very RNG dependent. Up next is Undying. This is an immediate S tier perk. This just gives other hex perks second lives, essentially. So let's say I have Blood Favor. If you're going to run a hex perk, you have to run Blood Favor, essentially. Or I mean Undying, essentially, to always give them a second chance of life. So essentially, let's say I run Blood Favor. It gets cleansed in the first 5 seconds. Now, Undying will become Blood Favor. So pretty solid. And it has a secondary effect, which is totally worthless. Essentially, any survivor within 3 meters of a dual totem has their aura revealed permanently as long as they're around it. As soon as they step 3 meters away, their aura goes away. So obviously on its own it's completely useless, but I have it up here just because it's if you're gonna run a hex perk, you have to run this. So just on its utility alone, it's up here. But obviously, if you take this by itself, it's F tier, literally. If you're not using another hex perk, it's F tier. So never use it on its own. But if you're going to use a hex perk, you almost always want to use Undying. Almost always. Up next is a really heavily slept on one for Huntress. That's Coup de Grace. So anytime you lose a generator, you gain 2 tokens. Each token increases your lunge duration by 80%. This is really huge because there's a lot of shit loops in this game that is impossible to use your power at and you're forced to M1 at. So increasing your lunge by 80% can actually allow you to swing around the loop and get the hit. Although you really don't want to be, you know, M1ing that often, this could be a good backup just to have if you hate playing around those small loops and you want to force the survivor to get injured or leave the loop much quicker. So it's a solid perk, but still not one I would really use and rely on, honestly. It's a very sneaky perk. I'd throw it right here, honestly. Up next is Hoarder. This one's essentially entirely worthless. Anytime a survivor touches and opens a chest, takes the item out of it, you get a loud noise notification and they're exposed for 45 seconds. Again, exposed perk, garbage. It's on Huntress. That's how I feel about that perk. We'll just slap it anywhere. It really doesn't matter. F tier is F tier, right? All of these are essentially unusable on her or very bad on her or very hard to use on her. Oppression, this one is goated. I'll throw Oppression right up here. Oppression is a very heavily slept on perk. Anytime you kick a generator, 3 other generators will start regressing. So it's like a mini ruin in a way. And if survivors are working on one of those 3 gens that get selected to receive the kick, because it goes for the just 3 random generators, well, then they receive a difficult skill check and they could miss that difficult skill check, which is 10% penalty. Really huge. It had an 80-second cooldown. Now it's down to 45 seconds. This is a very underrated perk. I literally never see people using it, but it is goated. Up next is Crowd Control. This one's pretty simple. You have Hex Crowd Control. It has 5 tokens. It starts with 0 tokens. It's kind of complicated, really. Not really, but it's a different tokenized system. So let's say a survivor fast vaults a shack window. Now that window will be blocked and it'll say 1. It'll have 1 token. And so that means it's blocking 1 window. And then they vault another window. Now it'll be at 2 tokens and so on and so on and so on up to a maximum of 5 tokens. Then they vault a 6th window. Now shack window will unblock. So can be absolutely goated in a map like Gideon. I mean, it's not really goated because Gideon's windows are pretty bad, but Gideon has 5 windows on it max. So you could block every single window on the map permanently. But then Auto Haven Wreckers has like 25 windows and this perk is absolute garbage. It's good. It's not great. I'd put it, where would I put it at, honestly? It's solid. It's better than what a lot of people give it credit for. I'll throw it right here. Up next is No Way Out. No Way Out, immediate top of A tier perk. Absolutely goated perk. Every time you hook a perk, the gates will be blocked for an additional 16 seconds. So essentially, let's say you don't hook any survivors at all somehow. You got absolutely styled on. Well, the gates will be blocked for 12 seconds. So, you know, in 16 seconds to open a gate plus 12 seconds of them not even being able to touch the gate, you know, that's what, 16 and 12, that's 28 seconds. I'm a dumbass. 28 seconds before they can actually open the gate. So that's not bad alone. And you get a loud noise notification when they touch the gate so you know which gate they touched first. Obviously, it's just a 1 noise notification. Then every unique hook you get after that increases it by 16 seconds to a maximum of 60 seconds. So 60 seconds, the gates will be blocked. The gates finally get unblocked. You get the loud noise notification when they touch the gate, and then it's 16 seconds for them to open the gate. So really solid, really goated perk. One of the best in-game perks in the game. Up next is Starstruck, exposure perk. anytime you pick up a survivor, any survivor within your terror radius will be exposed for 45 seconds. And it's obviously permanent while you're holding them. If they're in your terror radius the entire time, it's permanent, 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 permanent. And then you hook the survivor, now it starts counting down. Or they run out of your terror radius, then it starts counting down. Again, Vigil as well. That's keep in mind with Dragon's Grip and these other exposed perks I'm putting down here. Vigil makes it go down from 45 seconds to like 20 seconds. So it's essentially entirely worthless. Almost every exposed perk is worthless nowadays. But where would we put it? We'd probably put it. These are all just, like I said, F tier is just garbage across the board. Up next is Eruption. Eruption, you kick a generator. The generator's trapped. Not really trapped. It was back when it incapacitated survivors. Now it's just essentially you kick the generator and then you down another survivor. As soon as you down a survivor, the generator you kicked will explode for an additional 10%. So it does consume 2 regression states, the 5% kick and then the 10% down. So 15% in total. And if a survivor's working on the generator, when it does pop from Eruption, that 10%, their aura will be revealed for 12 seconds, which is the longest in the game that's not tied to a hex perk. 14 seconds with the Lethal Pursuer, you know, but still, it's just trash. It consumes, you'll block a gen so fast with this perk. It is not worth it at all. That being said, I do like it better than a lot of these other perks. Up next, we have Hysteria. This one's essentially Oblivious, again, terror radius based. Not hearing the terror radius, so totally worthless on Huntress. Essentially, every time you injure a survivor and then injure an additional survivor, all injured survivors will be oblivious for 30 seconds. So I injure survivor 1, they're not oblivious. I injure survivor 2, now both of them are oblivious for 30 seconds. Injure survivor 3, now all 3 are oblivious for 30 seconds. It resets their timer. Then injure the 4th one, all 4 are oblivious for 30 seconds, right? Essentially, oblivious is entirely worthless on Huntress, in my opinion. In my humble opinion. So we will put it, again, like I said, really doesn't matter at all at the end of the day. We'll just slap it anywhere. F tier, we do care about the placements in S to B or D, but for F, we really won't care that much. We'll have kind of a general area, but all of these are pretty much equally bad, so you can swap any of them out, really. Fire Up is obviously, you know what, actually, Fire Up, I gassed it with Fire Up. We're going to put Fire Up in D tier, and we're actually going to put Fire Up above Infectious Fright. Yeah, no, we'll put Fire Up above Spirit Fury. Actually, I was kind of gassing it. We'll save F tier specifically for exposed perks, basic attack perks that are just worthless on her, like undetectable, unless, you know, niche situations can make them solid. So again, all of these perks I believe are completely trash on her. And we're not going to worry about the placement of each of the ones in this. Just if you see perks in this tier, stay away from them. Don't use them at all. Up next, we have Lethal Pursuer, immediate S tier perk. Where would I put this one? Honestly, I'll put it right below Barbecue and Chili because I still think Barbecue and Chili is the best. Because essentially, like I said, if you're just using this on its own, it's kind of mediocre. But it's not bad. It's kind of like Corrupt in its own way because it shows you the auras of survivors the first 9 seconds of the match. So it starts you in a chase immediately. No guesswork, no finding survivors, no ratting survivors. You can find AFK players, snipe them. You can just snipe players off the rip. Absolute goated god tier perk. The also huge benefit to it after the first 9 seconds is the fact that it extends every aura reading duration by 2 seconds. So Barbecue and Chili is 5 seconds. Now it's 7 seconds if you're using Lethal Pursuer. Gearhead's 8 seconds. Now it's 10 seconds if you're using Lethal Pursuer, and so on and so on. Absolutely goated perk. Up next is Deadlock / No Holds Barred, depending on if you own Cenobite or not. And Deadlock is another S tier perk. This is literally free, easy, guaranteed passive slowdown. The survivors pop 1 generator. Now the next generator with the most progress is blocked for 25 seconds. Can't go wrong with that. Then you go check that gen, see if there's any survivors nearby. You see there's 50% progress on it. Well, now you know every other gen on the map has less than 50% progress. So it's really good in that way for sure. Up next is Hex Plaything. This thing, again, this makes survivors oblivious so they can't hear your terror radius. If you combine it with Pentimento, actually, no, Pentimento got nerfed and Pentimento's trash now. So yeah, this is actually just a very bad perk. But I will say, I'll put this one higher than the rest, even though it's just a stealth-based perk for her, because survivors are addicted to cleansing these totems. So it's 16 seconds to cleanse a totem. So you can, 14 seconds, so you can guaranteed get some passive slowdown value out of it. And maybe you do sneak up on survivors here and there occasionally. But yeah, other than that, it's just mediocre. It is blocked to all other survivors for 90 seconds too. So then we got Scourge Hook, Gift of Pain. Gift of Pain is very bad. I said that was a Hex Plaything, right? Hex Plaything slash Hex for no. Yeah. Hex Plaything slash Fortune's Fool. And then we have Scourge Hook, Gift of Pain slash Weeping Wounds. This one's a really good one. You have to hook a survivor on a Scourge Hook. They get off the Scourge Hook and they get healed. Now they're 16% slower when it comes to healing and repairing gens. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but pretty good. And we will put it right here. Then we got Grim Embrace. Grim Embrace is kind of interesting. So anytime you hook a survivor, all gens are blocked for 10 seconds when you move 12 meters away from the hook. So you hook one, move 12 meters away, 10 seconds. Another 10 seconds, another 10 seconds. The fourth time, it's 50 seconds. And then you see the Obsession's aura for 6 seconds. It's good. It's not great. I would say, honestly, it's kind of a mediocre perk, but, you know, it's runnable. It's runnable. Then we got Hex Pentimento. Hex Pentimento got nerfed super hard because baby survivors couldn't find their totems. So now Pentimento broadcasts its aura map wide to every single survivor. Not really, it's 16 meters, which is enormous for a hex perk showing itself. It slows down generators by 15% when you light up Pentimento, but you have to lose a totem. So if no totems have been destroyed, Pentimento does nothing. If you bring 20 other hex perks and they're destroying those hex perks, now you can slap Pentimento in their place for 15% slower gens. But unfortunately, baby survivors got destroyed by this perk because they can't find the Pentimento, so they had to nerf it and reveal its aura to everybody. So not only did it go from 30% slower gen speed to 15, but they also revealed its aura. So it is garbanzo beans. Then we got Scourge Hook Pain Resonance. This is from the artist's immediate S tier perk. We will put it right below. I like passive better. You don't have to do anything for Deadlock. You don't have to do anything for Corrupt. Pain Res, you do have to get your downs and you have to get your Scourge Hooks. You hook a survivor on a Scourge Hook, the generator with the most progress pops and loses a flat 20% instantly. So really, really solid, very great perk, but it does require you to get down, so it's a little bit harder to use. But, you know, it's still solid. But 20% progress, they can literally, it's like 15 seconds and they can undo it entirely. Up next is Color Brian. You kick a generator, it regresses at 150% for 60 seconds. And anytime a survivor works on it, the generator turns yellow and you get a loud noise notification for every single skill check they hit. So got a little bit of everything, a little bit of slowdown, a little bit of info, things like that. So it's not bad. It's not great. I would definitely put it above Overcharge in my opinion. Because the information and the faster gen speeds off rip, but that's about as far as I take it. Up next is Merciless Storm. This one's just a very bad, very mediocre perk in my opinion. I'll put it right here. So essentially, when a survivor is repairing a generator and it gets to 80%, they receive an onslaught of skill checks. So the skill checks are just nonstop. It's like, I think if it's just one survivor repairing a generator, because how long it takes, it's like 12 skill checks. If you had like, say you had like 3 perks that made gens like 30% slower combined, then they'd get like 24 skill checks, in which case it becomes a lot better. But even then, you know, it's just, survivors really don't miss these. I used to tweak and trip out about them at first and think it was hard. It's not hard to hit them at all whatsoever. If you do miss a skill check, you know, you get your 10% penalty and the gen's blocked for 20 seconds. So it is what it is. It's kind of mid. Then you got Scourge Hook Floods of Rage. This is another very solid one. I'll put it right up here. This one, anytime you hook a survivor on a Scourge Hook and that survivor gets unhooked, every survivor's aura is revealed for 7 seconds, no matter what. So again, 9 with Lethal Pursuer. Very solid, very useful all the way around the board. Can come in clutch. I like perks with a little bit more agency. One that like this is RNG dependent to a degree because it requires you to get a hook on a Scourge Hook, first of all. And then it just depends on the survivors when you get the value from it. You know, do they let the survivor sit for 69 seconds and then unhook them? Do they unhook them instantly, in which case it really doesn't get any value at all? It's really hard to tell. Then we have Darkness Revealed. This one we'll put essentially right above it. I think Darkness Revealed is overhyped on Huntress. Anytime you open a locker, which is handy because Huntress opens a lot of lockers to reload, every survivor who's within 8 meters of a locker has their aura revealed for 8 seconds. So, you know, it's map wide. A survivor could be literally hiding behind the locker that you're reloading at, and then you see them, which is nice. But then again, the locker placement in this game is so bad. So bad. There's literally maps where literally entire swaths of the map have no lockers at all. Like Sheltered Woods and Yamoka Estate. Yamaoka State's like 90 tiles and like 30, like 20 to 30 of the tiles don't have a single locker in them. It's absolutely insane. So it's good. It's much better on indoor maps, and it's just nice passive value because you're always going to be reloading, but it's not great. It's okay though. Up next we have Disillusion. This perk is a dumpster fire for a couple of reasons. We'll put it right here. So anytime you injure a survivor, 3 seconds after you injure them, and they fast vault a pallet in your terror radius, the pallet breaks. Actually, you know what? We're going to put it at the bottom of D. So you injure a survivor, they fast vault a pallet, nothing happens. You injure a survivor, 3 seconds later, they fast vault a pallet, now the pallet breaks. The problem is the survivors see an icon in the bottom right hand of their corner of their screen showing that Dissolution is active. So they're immediately not going to play that pallet at all whatsoever. They're not going to fast vault it, I should say. They'll probably WQ to the next pallet, or they'll just run around the outside. In fact, it can actually cause you problems because with Huntress, when a survivor fast vaults a pallet, you can sometimes mind game them and catch them in a locking animation and hit them at the last second while they're vaulting the pallet. But if they're afraid of breaking the pallet, they're not going to vault it. And then they go around the long side, and as a 110 killer, you really can't afford them to circle around the outside as long as possible. You kind of want to bait them into vaulting the pallet. So I think this is just a very bad, very awful perk. Actually, we're going to knock it all the way down to F because it encourages survivors to greed the pallet, pre-drop it, and play it way better, or not pre-drop it, but stun you with it, or just greed it, or just play it way better, or after they dropped it, it causes them to greed it and run all the way around the outside, and you're 110 killer. It takes a century for you to catch up. You'd much rather than play the pallet 9 times out of 10. So yeah, and it is terror radius based, but that's not a problem for this perk because if you're chasing the survivor, you know what I mean? You're going to be getting the value from it. I've played 10 matches with this, never got value. No. I got value from it one singular time. And up next is Septic Touch. It's actually so bad, I don't even know what it does, and I'm not even going to look it up because I know it's that bad. So we're just going to go ahead and throw it down here right at the end. I know it generally has something to do with survivors healing in your terror radius are exhausted, and it's only the survivor who heals the other survivor. So let's say survivor A is healing survivor B. Well, survivor A will be exhausted for 10 seconds, and that's literally it. That's if they complete the healing action in your terror radius. So yeah, absolutely awful. Up next, we have Awakened Awareness. Anytime you pick up a survivor and you're carrying them, you see any other survivor's aura within 24 meters of you. So, it's not bad. It's not great. I'm not going to say it's not bad. It is pretty bad. It could allow you to find rats, somebody maybe hiding for a sabo, things like that. It used to linger, but it was too good on nerfs, so they nerfed it. I would put it right down here, honestly. It's just not that good. Much better aura reading perks in the game. Up next is Superior Anatomy. This one's actually not too bad. Anytime a survivor fast vaults within 8 meters of you, when you fast vault that window, you vault 40% faster. And then it goes on a 40-second cooldown. So this is actually huge. 40% is very, very fast, and all it does is require a survivor to fast vault in your terror radius. If you're chasing a survivor at Shack, you're guaranteed to get value out of this. This is absolutely huge and can guarantee you a hit at Shack window after the first vault. So this is definitely nothing to scoff at. Bamboozle could be better in some instances because, it's 15% faster and it blocks the window. So you don't even have to worry about playing it at all, but Superior Anatomy is likely to guarantee you to get the hit. But at the end of the day, it's one perk slot dedicated specifically to vaulting, so I don't rate it that highly. Up next, we have Terminus. This one's kind of an interesting perk. So when the last generator is popped, all survivors will be broken who are injured. So let's say you have one survivor injured. The last generator finishes. That survivor's broken permanently until the gates are fully opened. Not 99, they have to be fully opened. And then a 30-second timer starts. At the end of the 30-second timer, they can heal themselves or have somebody heal them. So it could be an in-game situation where you injure all 4 survivors and then the last gen pops and then all survivors are broken permanently and it forces them to open the gate. This perk will probably scare them out of the gate, though. They'll probably leave because, they're going to be broken for 30 seconds. You could try to pair it with Blood Warden to, insta-down a survivor in the in-game that you injured earlier and then hook them. But like I said, they'll probably get scared out by Terminus and just leave. So it's a solid. It's not great, though. It's solid for sure. I put it right there. Actually, I put it right there. Up next is Hex Face the Darkness. Now, this one's interesting. So, whenever you injure a survivor, a random dull totem will light up into a hex totem, and any survivor outside of your terror radius, which is an actual good terror radius perk because hers is small. So, any survivor outside of your terror radius will scream every 25 seconds and reveal their aura for 3 seconds. And there will be a loud noise notification bubble. The problem is 3 seconds is not long enough. You have to run it with Lethal Pursuer to really gain any meaningful value. And the black bubble that pops up will block your aura rating. So that's a huge problem. Then the survivor you injured first, let's say you down them instantly, it deactivates the perk. You have to injure the survivor, leave them, let them stay injured. If they heal, it deactivates the perk. You have a current healing meta, you can't down that survivor, you have to let them go, it can be cleansed. Aura being blocked by the bubble. There's just too many downsides to it, so I'd put it all the way down here. Up next, we have Hubris, whatever. Survivor sends you with a pallet. They're exposed for 30 seconds. 110 killer. You're not catching up. You're using your hatch. It's garbage. Unusable. Unless they make a very big blunder. Then we have Nowhere to Hide. Immediate S tier. One of the best perks in the game. So this perk is very good for a number of reasons. And survivors desperately want this perk nerfed for a variety of reasons as well. So whenever you kick a generator, for the next 5 seconds, a little bubble essentially follows you. It's not something you can see, but a little 24-meter radius is tied to your killer. Any survivor who comes into contact with that bubble will have their aura revealed, but it's kind of in a different way, right? So let's say you kick a generator and there's a survivor hiding behind the gen. Well, you'll see that survivor for 5 seconds. But let's say you kick the generator and you spend 2 seconds walking in one direction and then a survivor comes into view. Now you'll only see their aura for 3 seconds. So it doesn't really reveal the survivor's aura on a fixed timer. It's related to the fixed timer that's tied to the gen kick. So, you kick the gen, walk 4 seconds in a direction, you could get a 1 second aura read on that survivor. The great thing about this, though, is survivors normally are by generators. Survivors normally go down near generators. You can kick the generator after you down the survivor and use it to find survivors hiding for flashlight saves and potentially score 2 downs instantly. You'll almost always get value out of this every single match, like 1 to 2 times, maybe 3 to 4 times a match. You'll always find a rat hiding nearby, behind a rock like 8 meters away, or behind a wall, or in between a couple lockers, or hiding behind a wall for a flashlight save. It is a god tier perk. It is so goated. The reason why survivors want it nerfed so badly is because Blight can obviously kick a generator and then sprint halfway across the map and get aura reveals with it. So that is a problem, but and even though Huntress is a slower killer, so you're not going to be getting as much value as those killers, it is still far and away one of the best aura reading perks in the game. Up next is Game of Foot. Game of Foot is a very bad perk. Essentially, when you're chasing a survivor, the longest chase time of the survivors. All right, up next is Game of Foot. This one's really bad. So whenever you basic attack a survivor who has the most chase time, they'll become the new obsession. And then when you're chasing an obsession, if you kick a gen, you kick a pallet, you break a wall, you break it 20% faster. Actually, I have to look this up. I don't even know if you break it faster. I know you get haste. Game of Foot. Okay. 7% haste for 10 seconds. Yeah, whoops. Absolutely worthless. So it has to be a basic attack. You injure the survivor, you kick the pallet, 7% haste for 10 seconds. It's totally worthless. If this wasn't tied to an obsession, it could be all right. Actually, it would be great because anytime you kick a pallet, you could combine it with like Enduring Brutal and Game of Foot, and then you would always be getting 7% haste for 10 seconds after kicking a pallet, which actually would be pretty solid. But unfortunately, it's tied to the obsession, which is absolutely abysmal. Not totally unusable, but not great. We'll put it right. No, we'll put it right here. I cannot make up my mind. All right, up next is Leverage. This one's just nice, solid, passive slowdown. So whenever a survivor's unhooked, they're healed 30% slower over the next 60 seconds. And you might think survivors would just ignore it and then go work on gens for 60 seconds, but you'd be surprised because how many healing perks are in the game. Actually, they'll just heal right through it. So it's that extra little slowdown's nice. And if you combine it with like Gift of Pain for another additional 25%, it's 55% slower. It's kind of a brutally long slowdown, honestly. It's nice, solid passive slowdown. I'd put it right here. Up next is Thwack. Thwack starts with 3 tokens. Every time you kick a pallet or breakable wall, any survivor within 32 meters of you will scream and reveal their aura for 6 seconds. And then every time you get a hook, you get 1 token back. It's not bad, not great. It's kind of mediocre on Huntress at the end of the day. I'd throw it. Where would I throw it? I think I'd throw it right there. I really value aura readings on her, if you couldn't tell. Up next is Forced Hesitation. This one's pretty simple. Anytime you down a survivor, all survivors within 16 meters of that down survivor will be hindered by 20% for 10 seconds. This is actually insane. It's connected to the survivor who goes down, which pretty much Surge should be, honestly, at the end of the day, but it's not for some reason. So let's say you cross map a survivor and you down them. Well, there's another survivor working on a gen next to them. Now they'll try to run away and it looks like they're running underwater and they cannot get very far at all. But the real power comes from like basement scenarios where you down the survivor and then they try to escape basement and they just can't do it because they're running so slow. It's very funny. I think I made a video about it, like one of my fastest matches ever. I ended a match in 2 minutes flat because of this perk. It is a very underrated perk, and it's definitely one of her best, but the problem is survivors split up might not get as much value, but I will put it in A tier for sure. Up next is Genetic Limits. This one's pretty simple. Anytime a survivor loses a health state, they're exhausted for 8 seconds. So could be good. Again, it's awful because Vigil exists 66% faster, so now you're talking 3 seconds of exhaustion. Absolutely meaningless. Even 8 seconds isn't enough. It should be like 20 seconds at the end of the day, just because Vigil alone. Even without Vigil, it should still be 20 seconds. I'd put it, I think Languid Touch is probably much better. I don't know. I think I'd put it, I guess, right here. It's just, no, we'll put it right here. It's mediocre at the end of the day. Then we have Machine Learning. Did I call this one Machine Learning? Did I get this wrong? This is Forced Hesitation, by the way. I think I called it Machine Learning. So this is Machine Learning right here. Anytime you kick a gen, the gen becomes compromised. Once they pop that generator, you have 8% haste and you're undetectable for 60 seconds. That's a very solid perk. Requires you to lose a generator. Really can't tell which generators you're going to lose. You could combine it with Deadlock, so that way you can have a more consistent idea of which gens you're going to lose, like Tinker or something like that. 8% haste ain't nothing. You know, it's not great, but you know, it's something. I would put it, personally, I'd probably put it like right here. Alien Instinct. So this one's kind of interesting. You hook a survivor, you see the furthest away survivor who's injured's aura for 8 seconds. So let's say you have 2 survivors injured, you hook one, and then there's a survivor who's hiding behind a bush 2 meters away. Well, you'll see their aura. But now let's say there's a 3rd injured survivor and they're 900 meters away. Now you're going to see the survivor's aura who's 900 meters away. It does not need that stipulation. It should show the auras of all injured survivors. I think that would be totally fine. As it stands right now with its current stipulation, it is awful. I would put it right here, honestly. Because if you don't have another survivor injured either, you're not going to get an aura read at all now, are you? Up next is Rapid Brutality. Again, this one's tied to a basic attack for some reason. You basic attack a survivor, you gain 5% haste for 10 seconds. 2.7 second weapon wipe. You're not going to be M1ing as Huntress. Basically unrunnable on her. You lose the ability to gain Bloodlust as well. Complete garbage. Then we have... Oop, my bad. I did not mean to scroll. I should not have done that. Then we have Ultimate Weapon. Whenever you open a locker, any survivor within 32 meters of you, scream. Absolute garbage. It was good when it was an aura read. Now it's just screaming. It's trash. So we are going to put it right. Oh, we'll put it above this one because it's not tied to the terror radius. Then we have batteries included. When you're within 12 meters of a completed generator, 16 meters, you gain 7% haste for the duration you're within that area, that completed gen. The problem is you don't want to be in the area of a completed gen at the end of the day. You just don't. Actually, no. They made it 16 meters and then they reduced it to 5%, right? So yeah, you don't want to be chasing near completed gens. 5%, it's okay. It's not great. I'm not gonna lie. You really shouldn't be getting value from this. If you're getting value from this, that's kind of a bad indicator, or, you know, the game's over and all the gens are popped, in which case you are getting, you know, a lot of value from it. At the end of the day, it just makes 115. It's kind of mid. I'll throw it. I definitely like it better than a lot of it. Then we got Friends to the End. You hook a survivor, you see the Obsession's aura for 10 seconds, and they're exposed for 20 seconds. Ignore exposed. No killer gets value from the exposed at all, essentially. It's pretty much impossible to cross the map to get to that survivor in 20 seconds, unless the Obsession's right nearby, and then you insta down them. But as soon as they figure out you have this perk, the obsession will be nowhere near you ever. But if you do hook the obsession, then a random survivor will scream and become the new obsession. So the aura reading's nice. The obsession switching's it's mid. Okay, what the heck happened here? That's interesting. Yeah, I'll put it right here. Then we got Hex 2 can play whenever you get stunned, blind. After you get stunned or blind twice, the next time you get stunned or blind, the survivors will be blind for 1.5 seconds. So they flashlight blind you, they're blinded for 1.5 seconds. Totally worthless. It's usable, I guess, at the very least. It's still garbage. 1.5 seconds isn't enough to do anything, really. So we'll just put it right there. Actually, I'll put it right there. Up next, we got Unbound. So whenever you injure a survivor, if you vault a window within the next 30 seconds, you gain 7% haste for 10 seconds. So, I mean, it's not bad. You could combine it with, like, Superior Anatomy or Bamboozler or something like that. Injure a survivor, fast vault the window, and then immediately catch up to them, zoom in, and get a free down. You know, it's not bad. It's definitely solid. I'd put it right below Superior Anatomy. I definitely value being able to vault 40% faster better than gaining 7% haste for 10 seconds after vaulting. Because Superior Anatomy, you could mind game fake out the window, and then when they double back across the window, you boom, fast vault on them, and they have no choices, right? Up next is Undone. We're just going to put this at the very bottom, one of the worst perks in the game. Essentially, anytime a survivor misses skill checks, you gain 3 tokens, up to a maximum of 30 tokens, and then however many tokens you have is how much the generator regresses by and is blocked when you kick it. So let's say somehow you get survivors to miss 10 skill checks. Never going to happen, especially on Huntress. That means you have 30 tokens. You kick a generator, it loses a flat 30% instantly, and it's blocked for 30 seconds, which is insane, but you'll never get 10 tokens, ever. Not on Huntress, that's for sure. Up next is Unforeseen. This one's okay. This is essentially like Dark Devotion. You kick a generator, your terror radius is tied to that generator for 30 seconds, and its terror radius is set to 32 seconds, so it can kind of trip survivors out, and then you're undetectable for 30 seconds. I'll go ahead and just put it right here. It's all right. It's not great, right? Then we have Dark Arrogance. I'll put this one in F tier. You vault windows 25% faster, but you're stunned for 15% longer. And you're also blind for 15% longer. It's not worth it at all whatsoever. Only killer perk with a downside, by the way. Then we have Languid Touch. Languid Touch, anytime a survivor scares a crow within 32 meters of your current position, they're exhausted for 20 seconds. Vigil, 66%. We're looking at 8 seconds, I believe. Yeah, 8 seconds. So, garbage. Was good before Vigil got Giga buffed. Vigil, in case you guys don't know, I keep talking about Vigil. Vigil it makes you recover from every status effect 66% faster. So exposed, 66% faster. Hemorrhaged, mangled, 66% faster. Exhausted, 66% faster. It used to be 20%, then it was 30, then it was 40, then they buffed it up to 66% because, you know, they love glazing survivors and giving them overpowered perks. So I'll put it right. Languid Touch, I'll put right. Then we got Weave Attunement. Garbage. It requires you to basic attack a survivor. Oh, wait, no. Actually, I got that wrong, but we'll still leave it here. So, Weave Attunement. If a survivor fully uses an item, it causes them to drop the item, and then you get to see their aura within 12 meters of that dropped item permanently. The problem is they'll just pick up the item instantly. They'll become oblivious for 45 seconds, but, you know, you'll never get value out of it really unless you're using Franklin's Demise, which you're not going to be using on her. So, this is going to be the first perk that's could actually get value that we're going to have an F tier. I was so excited for it too. If they give it a stipulation where the survivor couldn't pick up their item, it would be a god tier perk for Huntress. Next, we have Dominus. Whenever a survivor touches a totem, that totem's blocked for 16 seconds. So the totem will also glow white. You have a Hex totem. It's red. You see a survivor, you see it turn white, you know a survivor touched it. It's blocked for 16 seconds. They can't cleanse it. And then it's finally unblocked, and now they can start cleansing it again. It's all right. You know, there's much better options. I'll put it with the Thrill of the Hunt. Thrill of the Hunt's definitely better, though. Actually, no, because a lot of these perks are much better. We'll put it all the way down. So up next, we have Hex Wretched Fate. This one's pretty interesting. When the first generator is popped, the obsession becomes 33% slower on gens for as long as the totem's up. So this is basically going to force the obsession to go find their totem. And the thing is, too, it reveals its aura to the obsession within 16 meters. So unfortunately, it's kind of big. You know, I've been in situations where I've got Wretched Fate to activate because I lost the first gen and then it gets cleansed immediately. And I'm like, damn, well, what was the point of that perk? So if they don't find that perk, though, it's pretty solid. But then again, it reveals its aura, so it's pretty bad. Again, just babying survivors Not expecting them to try to find any totems at all. Human greed, this one's really bad. You see the auras of any survivors within 8 meters of a chest for 3 seconds. You can close chest. Oh, the chest had to be closed, by the way. And then you can press spacebar on the chest to close it again. It's garbage. Then you got All Shaking Thunder, commonly referred to as Does It Clap. So you fall off a great height, or you fall off a height. You can literally just drop 2 steps on a staircase, like just drop in a basement 2 steps. And then all of a sudden you can lunge 75% further for 16 seconds. It's pretty much worthless. Then you have No Quarter. This is literally Merciless Storm for self-healing. Essentially worthless as well. We'll put it right above Friends to the End. Then you got Scourge Hook, Jagged Compass. This one's not too bad. Anytime you throw a survivor on a hook and they get unhooked, that hook becomes a Scourge Hook. So you could potentially have like 20 Scourge Hooks. So that's solid. And then when you hook a survivor on a Scourge Hook, the generator with the most progress is highlighted to you in yellow for 6 seconds. So not bad. It's kind of a utility perk, a quality of life perk. Can be decent. I throw it right here. Then we got Forever Entwined. Basically, this gets 8 tokens. Every time you get a token, 5% faster. You pick up survivors 45% faster at 8 tokens, and you hook 45% faster. Again, really, it's a quality of life perk. It's really meant to prevent pallet saves and flashlight saves. The problem is, though, flashlight saves are so brain dead easy. You can still get the save with it. Especially if the survivor's using background player, and they're definitely still going to get the pallet save as well if they're using background player. It's just kind of mediocre. It's like a small quality of life thing. It can stack with fire up to make a kind of funny like meme build, hyperspeed pickup build, but other than that, it's just mid. So I'd put it right here. Up next is Hex Nothing But Misery, one of the absolute worst hex perks this game has ever seen, ever. So essentially, you have to basic attack 8 survivors. Then the next time you basic attack a survivor, they're hindered by 5% for 15 seconds. Keep in mind, this was literally a yellow add-on for the Huntress 6 years ago. Seed Brew Concoction, you would hinder a survivor by 3% for 15 seconds. An extra 2%, it's an add-on, 8 basic attacks, and then basic attacks after that. Totally worthless, completely garbage, never use it, awful. Then we have None Are Free, another completely awful perk. When the exit gates are powered, all pallets will be blocked and all windows will be blocked for 64 seconds. It'll help you get 1 to 2 downs, maybe max. It should be like 2 minutes, honestly, but whatever. So we will put it. Up next is Haywire. They absolutely massacred this perk and made it completely shit trash useless. Basically, exit gate gets 80%. It'll always regress to 80%. So if they 99 it, it'll regress back to 80%. It was 50%, but then Singularity, stinky ass, got it nerfed because he could place a camera by the gate and watch it and essentially make escapes impossible. So instead of making the perk not work on Singularity, they nerfed it for everybody and already made a mediocre perk absolutely unusable. So we're going to put it in F tier. Then we have Help Wanted. It's literally like machine learning, except for instead of 8% haste and undetectable for 60 seconds, you gain a 25% faster M1 recovery. So again, completely useless on Huntress. Up next is Phantom Fear. A lot of people swear by this perk. Nope, absolutely batshit awful, especially on Huntress. When a survivor's within your terror radius, they scream and reveal their aura for 2 seconds, then it goes on a 60-second cooldown. This is literally an inferior version of Scene Partner. Scene Partner is a god tier goated perk. You see the killer, you scream, you see their aura for 6 seconds. You can scream up to like 6 more times, and it extends the aura reading duration by 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds, making mind games and looping damn near impossible until they stop screaming. And it's got, what, a 40-second cooldown, 45 seconds cooldown? This has a 60-second cooldown for a 2-second aura read, and it can't go any higher at all. You can't gain multiple screams for like a 12-second aura read like Scene Partner. Totally worthless, tied to a small-ass terror radius for Huntress, because this whole terror radius is based on her, so absolutely useless trash garbage. All right, here we have it. Man, this was a long one. The final 3 perks. This is the Crosses perks. All of these are garbage. So up first, we have Hex Overture of Doom. You spawn in, the survivors work on a generator. The furthest one away from you will be selected. Your terror radius will immediately start playing on that generator after they repair it for 5 seconds. Oh, no. Not the furthest from you, the furthest from the Hex perk, actually. So that's kind of interesting, and it makes you undetectable. What can I say? Garbage. One of the worst Hex perks in the game. Definitely better than Nothing But Misery, though, for sure, for Huntress. But still garbage. Then we have Ravenous. This, you 4 hook survivors, so or unique hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now all survivors are exposed for 60 seconds. Completely worthless. Could be a niche scenario where like you're hooking the last survivor and they're like trying to body block for them for some reason, and then you just down everybody, but that's never gonna happen. Again, 110 killer, things like that. Then we have Wandering Eye. When you injure a survivor, all other survivor or no. When you start chasing a survivor, all injured survivors within 24 meters of that survivor will have their auras revealed for 6 seconds. 24 meters is all right. They have to be injured, though. If it wasn't injured, it could be all right, but it has the injured stipulation, so it is garbanzo beans, and I'll put it right there. So yeah, that does it. That is all of the killer perks tier listed and ranked specifically for Huntress and how well they work on her. Obviously, F tier, S to D tier, I cared about the placements. You know, I really do think barbecue and chili is better than lethal. I think lethal is better than nowhere to hide, of course, things like that. I really do believe, you know, pain res is better than enduring, of course, and I definitely think deadlock's better than pain res. When it comes to F perks, F tier perks, it's just all kind of everywhere. Like all of these are literally essentially useless, not technically useless. Like you can still get value from these perks. You know what I mean? You can M1 a survivor and make them drop their item, but you don't want to be M1ing as Huntress. It's very hard to M1 as Huntress because it takes forever to catch up to the survivor. And then the value you gain from M1ing is literally nothing because the item doesn't lose charges anymore. So that's kind of my whole point down here. You can still use these perks. You can still get value from them. But I would highly recommend you never touch these perks at all as Huntress. And this kind of just also goes to showcase and highlight my problem with a lot of perks. Look at all the perks. I legitimately recommend you never use these perks ever. Don't touch them ever. It is not worth it at all. They're borderline unusable. But this is kind of the problem I had with Huntress that I wanted to talk about in a certain video, but I guess this is the perfect time to talk about it while we're here. Look at all these perks on her that are unusable. You have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. So that's 40 perks. 44 perks out of what? 148, I believe. 44 of them are totally unusable on her. And then, you know, you have another 40, another 50, no, another 48 that are very bad on her. So these basically are the perks you're limited to. You know, S to C are your best perks at the end of the day. D-tiered perks are more reliant on combinations with other perks and things like that. So yeah, I love Huntress. I love her to death, but very, very restricted in her abilities because she's a 110 killer. She can't do stealth really, except for on certain maps. And yeah, so that does it for this one. That was a long one, probably the longest video I ever did. That is every single perk ranked for the Huntress specifically in Dead by Daylight. So yeah, that does it for this one. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, that good stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next one.